Greetings and salutations, Ben and Charles here. Y'all there? Welcome to the Sunday night hanging right here on Sundays. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, rant. I don't care. I do care, but I don't care. I do care. Welcome one, welcome all, and happy to see everybody already. The chat's alive, and this is another special occasion. Hanging out with my good friend Charles Greene. No agenda tonight, folks. We'll see, what you guys want to talk about, what we feel like talking about. Sure, we'll go with that. And got a bunch of people already joined. Wow, we already got a bunch of people in the chat here, Charles. Wow.
Look at all these people here tonight. Yeah. You guys look good. It's good to see everybody, man. Happy Sunday afternoon. I hope everybody's doing well.
We got Earl was first in the chat. He's asking how the root beer is. Nice and creamy. Got A&W root beer tonight.
Right on, bro.
We got Herb of Fireside Studio in the house.
Herb, right on, brother.
And then Ferd Burkle. Great to see Ferd. And
right
our music-in-law, Ryan Hall. Y'all.
Good to see you, Ryan. I love
Six-string Stangers here.
Right on, six-string.
Marshall Murray. Mr. BHB Jr. I think that's Bruce.
It's good to see you guys. Right on, Bruce.
Yeah, great to see Bruce back. Billy Baloney's here. Always a pleasure. Hip Metal Works.
Good to see you, Billy. Right on. Hip Metal. Good to see you, bro. Right on. Good to see you, bro.
Symmetry, of course, our good friend, Brother Trev.
It's good to see you, Trevor.
Michael Krause. Good to see Mike in here.
Mike. It's good to see you, Michael.
Josh Tamberg.
Right on, man. It's good to see you.
JP Page 2.
Right on.
One and only Mark Taft. I know he was looking forward to tonight's show.
Right on, Mark.
When we get together, he goes, "When's the next time you're getting Charles on?" I'm like, "Easy, Mark." He'll say that after we'll do tonight's show. If I get together with him tomorrow, he'd be like, "When's Charles coming on?" I bet he was just on last night. He said, "I know."
Mark is a rocker. I love Mark, man. It's good to see you. Right on, Mark.
There's our good friend Donnie, the voice of Cornhole himself.
Right on, man. It's good to meet you.
Co-host of the Down and Back podcast with my cousin Doug, or their live stream. I don't know how that works. So Keith H, he's a wild man.
Keith, right on, brother.
Artist the Dog said, fellow Canuck.
Hey, I love dogs, brother. Right on, man. Nice to meet you.
Our good friend Michael B. Help. Great to see you, Michael B.
Right on, Michael B. Right
Jeff
on,
K.
Jeff, it's good to see you, Jeff.
Absolute Mayhem.
Fucking Absolute Mayhem. Right on, bro.
See, Mark is LOLing, but he knows it's true. He says, "Good to see you as well," of course.
Yeah, man. Right on, man.
Nice. So, yeah, if you have questions, comments, concerns for us, put some question marks at the front of the comment, or you can @ us. That works. Of course, if you're a channel member, you can use a milestone message to stand out. Or use a super chat and help keep the lights on here. What's up, Kush?
On you guys. Kush, man, it's good to see you.
Yeah, great to see Kush.
Right on, man.
32 so far.
Did we get JP Page?
Great to see Jim in here.
Right on, Jim. I'm trying, once again, as usual, a lot of new names. A lot of new names, faces, and stuff that I'm not familiar with, which is
always
typical growth for you, Ben. That's awesome, man. It's good to meet all you guys.
Hey, there's William Silva.
Right on, man. It's good to see you, William.
Hey, Charles 75N. See, we've been stalling. We've been stalling,
right on, brother. Right on, dude.
Yeah. Charles was out of town yesterday, and he was going to do a show this morning, and then decided, you know what? I need some me time to decompress.
There with you, Charles. I'm right
Which
there.
Which tells me, because he had stated on his Friday night show, the plan was for Sunday to do his show, chat with Charles, Sunday, and then he was going to work on your guitar. But now I'm thinking if he took the show off, he probably took the whole day off just to relax. And that's fine, Charles. We get it.
It's all good. When he gets done with it, he's going to send it to me. We're going to start putting it together in real time. We were just talking about this, Ben. I God, you know what? I wish I could remember the gentleman's name, but I'll just tell the story this way. Randy Price, he's a incredibly gifted guitar player in the chat and in our family. Guy who actually creates the signature Joey Allen signature pickups, and I just want to say that I'm planning on getting these. He's a boutique custom pickup manufacturer. He sells them online, and Randy has recommended those. He mentioned them to me, and I've had the fortunate opportunity to see him live and actually hear his unique sound. You know, we were talking in the green room. I just got into this guitar world in the last, decade essentially. And I was really, really, unfortunately, very ignorant about a lot of stuff until about 3-4 years ago when I started hanging around you guys. Okay. So now I have this massive bunch of knowledge because I'm hanging around a bunch of smart people. And I've noticed that if I take some advice here and there, my guitar world, gear-wise, and just in general, is better. Period. So I'm definitely going to jump on that pickup. It's just one pickup. It's a Hot for Teacher style Kramer, and it's customized. And we're going to order. We've got a Floyd coming from. It's very custom. It's got titanium in it, and it'll be the most unique Floyd and high-end Floyd I've ever purchased. And I'm anxious to see, how it responds to my putting it through the motions. And so that's just something I'm really looking forward to. It's going to be ongoing content. We also. Ben and I have talked about it, and I've mentioned it. I was going to tonight. Can I mention that about Robin and the guitar lesson?
Go for it. I'm going to quickly shout out. What's up, Lee? And we've got, who else do we see in here? Lee came in here. Bonkers came in here.
Right on, Lee.
And Richard Clark. So, yeah.
Right on, Richard. It's good to see you guys.
Oh, and Paul McNary. That's right, as well.
It's good to see you, Paul.
He said he's lurking, but now he's saying hi to a bunch of people. So
that's all good, man. He's a rocker. I need to set my guitar up to actually do a show on Ben's show here to show you guys. I was going to, let me back up. In 1982, I was sitting on, it was before Christmas of 81, so it was not quite 82. I was sitting on a couch in this apartment with Robin Crosby. He gave me a guitar lesson. Very short, 30 minutes of jamming. He was sitting there jamming for a couple of hours, but I got involved with him for about 30 minutes. I'm going to share that on the next time Ben has me on here. We're going to set the guitar up and do it all the audio correct. And we may be able to actually come off with maybe a couple of riffs that are close to some Rat songs. We want to give it a little more thought to it before I just throw it out there, because it'll be really good content for the channel, and it'll be super interesting for you guitar nerds and lovers of the band Rat and Robin Crosby. Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to clarify that with you guys. We talked about it, and it's a thing. It's just not going to happen right now.
But our good from Down Under, John, out of Melbourne, and he's asking, he says, I'm thinking of repainting a guitar with scratch and sniff paint. Should I go with strawberry or roast chicken? How about the body roast chicken and the headstock in strawberry?
I'd have to think about that one for a minute.
Yeah, that way you got the entree and dessert. I'm not sure. Nelson Rodriguez, legend himself here.
It's good to see you, Nelson. Right on, bro.
And Mitch Heyman. Mr. Digicals.
Brother Mitch, man. Right there, Mitch. Right there, brother.
Richard Clark comments, my scratch and sniff guitar smells like disappointment. I hear you. Hey, there's Wayne McConnell. Great to see brother Wayne.
Good to see you, Wayne. Very cool. Very cool.
45 y'all up to now in here. That's great. Great to see all of you.
Right on. That is awesome.
So yeah, have your axes ready next time too, folks. You know, we'll be learning. Nice little. I'm not going to call it a trick, but a great tip. We'll call it a tip. Hey, there's Dan in New Jersey.
Dan, it's good to see you, Dan. Right on, man. You know,
Unfucking believable finally showed up.
Oh, fucking
apologies for being late.
That's awesome, dude. And
I haven't
John
seen
CD, right? John?
Yeah. I haven't seen Bo in here yet.
Well, I was going to mention that show you did with Bo last week was fantastic. You know, Bo's interesting, man. He's interesting. It one of the funniest things, if you're a member of the Water Buffalo Society, you're sitting there, it doesn't matter what guitar you're talking about with the group, he'll always go, I swear to God, he will always go, you know, I've got one of those. Or he'll disappear and he'll come back and he'll have the guitar. He is a mind-blowing dude.
Or the guitar. Like, half the time it's like the guitar. Like, I remember people were showing off their PRSs. Well, there he is. There's Bo. You know, everyone's showing off their PRSs, and all of a sudden, he pulls out a 10 top from the 90s. Yeah. And you're just like, well, like that's just the the exclamation mark. As well as I saw my cousin Doug down at Back Cornhole Podcast in the chat here.
Right on, bro. Right on. Yeah, I just want to give you a shout out for that show.
Guitar 1952.
That's awesome. Right on, bro.
Now we're up to 50 people. I was wondering, Bo was talking, he had taken his daughter with him to see Lynch Mob a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And she's like, this is great. You know, the rock and roll shows are really cool, Dad. She's 22, Charles.
I'm telling you what.
Right? So
that's just good parenting.
Possibly either last night or it's coming up in a week or two. I'm not sure which.
Yeah.
King's X they're going to go see. So.
Very cool.
And he's looking at getting a venue and start putting on shows himself. Because she's like, well, you should do that. And I said, did you just say to her, I used to, and then you were born? Because Bo gigged for years.
And once again, being around those guys in a group is overwhelming. It really is. You want to just kind of sit at what I do is I sit back like a fly on the wall and I just listen.
There's a few. You're not alone in that. There's several of the Water Buffaloes that do that lurk mode, and I get a kick out because like on a busy one where there's like say 25 of us hanging out, the whole bottom row is just people in lurk mode. Like they don't have their mics on, don't have the cameras on, and they're just listening. And there's usually about 5 of them.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I
always learn something. So you want to learn something? Hit the join button down below.
Absolutely. Last week I was cruising down the road and by the way, I'm sorry. I went to the dentist. I've got some ongoing stuff going on, but I've got that major issue. I like 1/4 of my tooth just like broke off. It was so painful. It sucked. Tooth pain sucks. I'm just going to say it like that. But I had to postpone the show until now. Sorry about that, you guys. But I was driving down the road last week, and I was having remembering a guy who used to work with me at the whiskey. His name was George.
Okay.
And
small guy.
And when I think about George was a refrigerator. Okay. Okay. He weighed more than a refrigerator. He was a what do you call it? Mixed martial artist in 1975. Okay, so that was pre what we think about in like MMA nowadays. We're talking 1975. He came up in his youth in the Bronx in New York. He told me a story one night. And everything I'm saying right here, he told me one night when I first met him by the back door of the whiskey. He was a new employee. I'm standing there, and this tractor trailer guy pulls up next to me, and he's standing there with Red. And it was near the end of my probably the last, I would say maybe 3 months that I was there at the whiskey. And so he walks up and Red introduces me to him, and he has that thick, New York from the Bronx accent. And he introduces himself to me, and I'm sizing this guy up, and I'm noticing his size, and I'm noticing things about him. But he opens up to me. He starts telling me about his past, and I'll give you guys a brief history of this guy. It was incredibly interesting. And there's a tie-in to a couple of things, people that we know in this community and people who have sort of left their print in the musical world. So he starts talking to me about what he used to do as a guy. He was was an enforcer for the mob. He used to go collect. He was a collector in his very young his youth. And he got into fighting, into boxing, and he got into mixed martial arts. Had got a black belt. So he's a black belt.
Hey, Quentin fucking James in the house.
Right on, Quentin. So this guy's got a black belt in karate. Okay. He's a bona fide badass. And he looks threatening. Okay. Viciously threatening looking dude. And he his nose was mashed over, and he had obvious signs of being hit a lot. And so he starts telling me this story. And so in 1975, he said around 75, 76, he decides to get into boxing from mixed martial arts into boxing. Within 2 years, he is a literal fighting in the heavyweight divisions, and he has a small injury. I forget what the injury was he had, but he had to kind of take a step back, and he became a professional sparring partner in the heavyweight division of boxing. Okay. So he's in Las Vegas, and he's there, and there was this heavyweight contender, a guy by the name of Randall Tex Cobb. I don't know if you guys remember or not. I was trying to think who it was. It was, I wrote his name down to make sure I didn't lose his name. He was set up to fight Larry Holmes. I don't know if you guys remember or not, but he was a contender in line to fight Larry Holmes. It was a promoted fight.
Thanks for popping in, niece.
2 weeks. It's good to see you, bro. 2 weeks before the fight, there's an exhibition match that Tex Cobb held, and George was his sparring partner for the exhibition match. And so George is standing there with me, and he's telling me this, and my ears are wide open. I'm listening to this guy. You think I'm a good storyteller? You should have heard this story straight out of his mouth. It was voices.
Hobo already has the line. Tex Cobb looked like a bar fight.
I remember Cobb going on Merv Griffin after losing. Okay? And so he's telling me this freaking story. And so anyway, he said that Cobb was hitting him dirty. He was hitting him low and giving him all kinds of low blows. And George wasn't going to have it. And George says, look, he said, I looked him right in the eye. And the ring was completely surrounded with media. Okay, so the media was all there. This was a exhibition fight, which greatly affects the gambling across the board in boxing. Sure. So this was like a big deal. I didn't even realize until I got older.
Hey, Jimmy Ray.
So,
thank you.
Jimmy Ray, you freaking rock, man.
New channel member.
Wait a minute. Right there, Jimmy Ray.
Nice.
Fucking rock.
Everyone Crane's here as well. And
good to see you, bro.
Patrick Traits, BC Rich. Zach Thong just showed up.
Oh, Zach, guys. It's good to see you. BC Rich too, man. Right on, guys. So he's telling me this, and he said he goes in and immediately starts calling me Charlie Boy.
Right.
So he gives me a nickname the minute he meets me. This is all within 5-10 minutes of meeting me. He's telling me this story, right? Dave, it's good to see you. And And so he's explaining how he's in the ring and he's going around and Tex Cobb was so cocky to him and being so belligerent and rude, and he kept hitting. And he said he didn't do it once, he didn't do it twice, he kept doing it over and over. And so finally George says, listen, Tex, he says, you do that one more time, he says, I'm going to put you on the mat. Well, he hit him again, and he uppercutted him, and he knocked him clean cold out in front of the media 2 weeks before fighting Larry Holmes. Now, the backlash, the shit from everybody in the world was now mad at George. The fucking mob was mad at him.
Right.
The fucking promoters were mad at him. The media was pissed. Oh, my God. The shit stormed.
Because it's like obviously this big fight's not going to be much of a fight if this nobody knocked him out. Type
one
thing.
Punch. So now you've got 2-3 minutes after this. Cobb's back up. He didn't stay down long, but he knocked him out. Gets up. They get the media all together. They shut all the fucking doors, and they literally strong-armed the media and said, none of this shit's going to get you fucking, don't you fuck. And they literally strong-armed the media. I'm going to say this. I never heard about this actually happening. I never actually heard about Tex Cobb actually doing it. But this is the story George tells me. And so I said, so my question to him was, so dude, how the fuck did you end up here? Because now he's standing at the Whiskey A Go-Go doing my freaking job, right? And he just said, Charlie boy, he says, I had a lot of hard luck, and I'm on the West Coast now. I hope I get a better life. And I was like, well, man, it's a pleasure to meet you. That's great. But they blackballed him from boxing at that point. He couldn't even show his face. He was naming all the places he couldn't go. Atlantic City, here, there, everywhere. It was a shame because it was his whole world.
Right.
From one punch, an uppercut.
Yeah.
A right uppercut. He said he sent him right to the mat.
Well, and let's be honest, the other guy wouldn't have been doing low blows and shit unless he was scared of the opponent to begin with.
That's interesting.
You don't fight that way just to fight that way. Like that, you make a conscious effort to do that.
I believe it was a one-sided, what they call a unanimous decision, the knockout. He lost, period, when he fought Larry Holmes.
Wanted to let us know he's got one of your picks in the batch of picks he got from TK.
Oh, dude, that is awesome, Bo. I'm so glad, man. You rocked that pick, brother.
It's awesome.
That's awesome. I love it that Tony does that. I get to share a show with Tony and Brennan and Ed, and we get to do it a couple of times a week.
Hey,
it's
Ryan.
Wonderful. Yeah, look at this guy right here, Ryan. Guys, if you don't get a chance, check out Ryan's show from tonight with all the boys. We got to jam a little bit. It was really good getting to jam with those guys. It's a very special little world, and it's very entertaining. It really is.
Hit that like, folks. We got 76 people watching.
Right on, man.
Wayne says that was a hell of a story. Wayne.
Okay.
This is a good opportunity. I'm just going to interject here. Wayne, that's newer to the channel. Fun fact, Wayne, this is Charles' 13th appearance on the channel. And I made a specific playlist because we follow through on stuff like we were talking in the green room. I said on the last show, I should put together a dedicated playlist of me and Charles hanging out. And guess what? It is out there. So if you go on the channel, there's a dedicated playlist.
Nice.
And
that's great. I didn't realize stories. Has it been that many appearances on here? Have I been on here that many times?
And you know what the scary part was?
Really?
The first time was only in January of 2022.
Wow.
Right? Like we're averaging basically once every couple of months.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah, it was great. It was like 7 times the first year and 5 times last year because you were busy.
Nice. Yeah, so he tells me that story, and for the next 3 months, he and I we get pretty friendly. I see him every day, every night. We got each other's back. We're in fucking bar fights. I'm not even going to tell you the fights I was in with this guy. But one night, I actually thought that he was going to drag Tommy Lee out of the backstage on Biff's prompting from Saxon. That was a real problem that actually occurred. And it's the first time that he and I had a disagreement. And he would have killed me. He would have killed me. I'm standing up to him and I'm just like, George, you can't do that. I realized what was going on was Saxon it was a Sunday night. They had been there for 3 nights. It was their 3rd night. And they weren't selling the place out. They were gaming hot and heavy, and it was really cool. And the first night was absolutely killer. Second night was a little lukewarm because a lot of the fans, they had a fan base that was reoccurring. By the 3rd Sunday night, the club was half full. People were pissed off. Management wasn't happy. And I literally was in the office when Red Keller handed the manager for Saxon a stack of cash that high. I couldn't tell you, but it was a lot of money.
Right.
And so there was a little bit of this kind of thing going on. And so George was not the most articulate dude, and he couldn't really hold conversation back and forth. There was no meeting of the minds with him. And Red, by that 3rd month, Red had him sort of trained. Red would say, you do this and this, and you do it. And he would just do it.
Right.
And it was a little frightening. I'll be honest with you. It was a little bit of a pain in the ass. But you can't have a better guy backing you up, So it was bittersweet. Okay, it really was. But so Biff comes up to me and he's pissed. He's upset. And he's mad at Motley Crue for stealing all the girls and stealing all their thunder. Well, it's his damn fault for playing at the fucking Whiskey. Okay, it's their club. Period. Tough shit. I mean, that's really the way it was. And I was there with the boys. They weren't doing anything wrong. Nothing wrong. They were just hanging out in the hallways trying to do what they did. That's what they did.
What's up, Boner Jams?
Boner, you are awesome. Thank you, Boner.
Chuck Verrett is a YouTube deity. YouTube in the world is better because of Charles. Love you guys. We love you too, Boner Jams.
I appreciate that, bro. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you, Boner. And so I knew what was going on. So I saw the whole thing for what it was. And Biff was just being a little dick. He really was. He was tired. He was burned out. He'd been up for 3 days. He'd been partying for 3 days. They were wonderful the first night, 2 nights. They were wonderful. But by that 3rd night,
Bo met Biff around the same time you met Biff.
They were nice guys. They really were. My best Aussie story is with Saxon. They're bros. They grew up in the same town. And and they were really nice guys. And I got a great education and a lot of funny stories from those shows. It was wonderful. And I remember when the guys in the crew were in the club and they came to the backstage door, and if I was at that door and they came up, I didn't ask them, hey, you guys want to come backstage? There was none of that. I just stepped to the side and let them come right on through like they owned the place, because they did. And so I didn't treat them any different on a busy, popular night as I did on a Tuesday night when, Agent Orange was playing or something, you know? They just kind of, that's just the way we roll. And we were friendly. We're friends. So anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, probably the only time would be like at those times where you're at capacity, where every head counts, like, which is that once in a blue moon situation.
Well, even in those situations, I typically, if my friends were there, or I was, like maybe, my girlfriend and maybe a couple of her friends or something, sometimes on their night off, they would hang out for a couple of hours with me backstage. That kind of stuff happened all the time. Sure. I took liberties to do what I wanted to do, so my world was comfortable. But at the same time, I had Tommy's back on this one, Biff was out of line. He was asking for absolute ridiculous. It's ridiculous to ask me to ask Motley Crue to leave the backstage with a whiskey when they're not.
It's not like the hallway. It's not like they're in the dressing room.
Yeah, it was a bullshit move. So anyway, but George read Biff, the manager guy, went down to the office and was complaining. And Red told George to go up there and you tell Charlie that we're going to get those Motley Crue boys. And he didn't like Motley Crue. You guys have heard me tell stories about Red and his he could care less attitude about Motley Crue. He was the only one. And I've told stories about me and Louis, Mario's nephew, who was the bartender, looking out for those boys. If you come into that club and you sell, 5 shows out in a weekend to capacity, and you do it over and over again, there is a respect level that you obtain, and it shows if the people who you're working for have any class. So they, but anyway, to my story, here comes George. He walks up, he comes up, he whispers in my ear, he goes, "Look, we got to get these Crue boys out of here." And I look at him, I said, that can't happen, George. That's not going to happen. Let me tell you what's going on. So I was going to try to fill him in because he didn't know any details. He was just given an instruction and sent on a fucking mission like a torpedo.
Sure.
It took me 15 solid minutes of talking to him and like hanging on to him while he's in Tommy's face, ready to put his hands on Tommy Lee and drag him out of the backstage of the whiskey. And I'm in his ear. I'm the voice of reason. I'm in his ear because I'm not going to manhandle this man. I couldn't move him. If I grabbed him, and I was fucking strong, all right?
Yeah. If you grabbed him, he'd right through you out right alongside Tommy.
He would have just acted like a water buffalo with an animal on his back and not even noticed.
What's up, Brother John?
I mean, literally, the guy was a wrecking ball. And so I'm trying to speak reason to him. I'm trying to very calmly, we can't do this. And I finally start getting a breakthrough. I said, look, let's talk about this, please. Let's talk. So he gives me this fucking moment of resolve and resolution where I'm looking eye to eye with him. And I've said, look, this is who they are. Biff is being a dick. We can work this out. I'll bring these guys out of the backstage for a while. We'll get them out of here for a little bit. And then we'll just let things calm down. And he goes, well, all right, Charlie, we can do that, man. But, Red told me to do. He's literally repeating over and over to me what Red was telling him to do, like they were his orders, like he was what do you call that? Oh, God, I don't know what you call that, like a Trojan horse or some kind of a thing coming in to do his job. It was ridiculous. So anyway, I get the boys together, get them out into the bar. They're out there for a while. And I'm talking to George. And he says to me, Charlie, I got to tell you what. He says, I like you. He says, I like you. He says, but I want to punch you in the mouth just as hard as I can. I said, well, George, I hope you won't do that, bro. I really hope you won't. He looks at me and he goes, I like you. He goes, I like you, like that. And he just keeps repeating that. And I said, look, I'm hugging him. I'm saying, it's good, please. I'm thinking, fuck this guy. I'm sorry, guys, but he was frightening. Right. So anyway, fast forward just a couple of months later, Motley Crue is having a signing. They got signed. There's a party sponsored by, what was her name? Vicki Hamilton. Vicki Hamilton. She was the manager of Tower Records, and she was a very smart business lady. She, there's rumors that she was, after Alan Kaufman, their manager for a while. And then I think I've actually heard her do an interview where she denies that and says, no, she's talking it down. She really doesn't give herself enough credit because those boys needed guidance. And she gave it to them. Okay, when they had to have it. Okay, they had no management for a while. It was a weird time. A weird time. But so we're at this signing party, and Vicky has come up to me a couple of times, as well as, Nikki came up to me a couple of times and stuff. They needed more seating for guests, chairs. I've told the story a little bit about this before. I told this story to actual the people the story's about.
Hey, Ian Cigar Shack made it. Good to see you in
Hey,
here.
it's good to see you, brother. I actually got to tell this story to the actual people I'm telling the story about on Tony's channel. That's the beauty of YouTube, you guys.
Right.
So anyway, at the whiskey on the upstairs, there was 1, 2, 3, 4. There was four tops right at the top of the stairs. And as you're sitting at them, the bar, if your back was looking at the stage, the bar's right behind you. Then there's a little L that went out, a little jetty that went out there, and there were another 2 or 3 two tops. Now, this is prime real estate for seating in any venue, and we took basically twice the chairs that should be in that area and packed them all in. Okay, so now it's an overcrowded area like I just described, double the seating of what I just described. And in that table are record executives, managers of major bands, and a couple of authors. Brad Talinsky and Chris Gill, the authors of Eruption, one of the latest and quite literally one of the greatest Van Halen books that has ever been written. Now, at that time, they were writing for Guitar World magazine. They were doing, their day job. But the beauty of the story is they were instrumental, the both of them, in helping to get Motley Crue signed to Elektra Records. That's who they were getting signed to. This was after Leather Records. This was right after Alan Kaufman. And so Vicky is getting a little pissy with me and George. All right, me and George are hanging upstairs. We're running. I'm backstage, and George is up on the second level, and he's just helping oversee shit because it's standing room only. Packed. Over capacity, guaranteed. And so she comes up to me, and she says, Charles, look, we got to have more seating. And I said, look, Vicky, I've already been up to the Roxy and the Rainbow. Me and George had made a trek like an hour before that. You should have seen us looking like a couple of camels with chairs in our arms, both of us walking down Sunset Boulevard,
Right.
So we didn't have to make a bunch of trips. We overpacked ourselves. It was crazy. But we got every chair they had, and there was no more chairs. There was no more seating. That was it. Okay. And I had told her this before. I told her again. She wasn't listening to me. She was trying to go over my head to get people to tell me to go get more chairs that were not there. But then she crossed the line a little bit. I'm not knocking her because we all had, different stuff that was on our agenda to deal with, and she was just trying to do her job. Okay. I'm not knocking her in any way, shape, or form. I love her. Okay. She comes up to the back door. Nikki is with her. And their sole reason was to get me to remove Brad and Chris from their VIP seats at the upstairs, basically at the bar. Now, I told them, I said, guys, what, you can't be doing that. My first impression, but I was very respectful. I didn't call all the shots. It's not like I had carte blanche to say this is going to be this. It's not that way. But I knew that wasn't right. Immediately, I knew that was wrong, okay, to do that. They had already been sitting there for better part of a half hour. I had a bar tab running, and ironically, the bar tab is what ended up saving them. So, but George had become friendly with Nikki, okay? Him and Nikki hit it off for some reason, and Nikki mentions to George that this is all he says, man, I want to get these guys out of that chair. And so anyway, fast forward a little bit here, about 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm standing behind George. I've got one hand on George's shoulder right here. I just got like a hand on there like that, going like that, just looking over his shoulder as Vicky and Nikki tell Brad and Chris they need to get up and move. Okay? And so I'm playing the buffer because I'm in real time over my shoulder leaning to Louie and say, Louie, look, they're trying to get these guys out. I'm telling Louie the whole story.
Yeah.
As this is going down in real time. And I just wait, and the magic words come out of Louie's mouth. That table right there, those two guys, no. They've had a tab running for 30 minutes. He said, we're not playing musical chairs. This is the Whiskey a Go-Go. Just like that. Well, that's all I had to hear. I leaned over to George into his ear. I said, George. Louie says, no way. And he looks at me, and he looks at Louie, and Louie's like, nope, they're staying. They got a tab. He's still saying this. All right. George's like, oh, that's it. So George immediately leaves Nikki and leaves Vicky. Okay, there he's like, no, it's done. So I'm standing there, but I'm in the back now, and it's funny when they were telling the story. They started telling the story on the show, right. And I remembered it in real time while they were telling it. That is the beauty of YouTube. And anyway, I can laugh about it now, but they were literally this far from. He was not without just grabbing someone and picking them up and tossing them out the back door.
Right.
That was his style. That's what he did. He was a liability, but in those days, it was a different world.
Yeah.
It just was. I was involved in all kinds of crazy shit. Court stuff where Mario would just be like, he took care of it.
Yeah.
He just took care of it. I never had to go to court. Well, that's not true. I had to go to court one time when I was working at the Whiskey, but I didn't have to say anything. I was sitting outside the courtroom, and this attorney guy came up to me, and he, you're so-and-so, yeah, boo-boo, we're not going to need your services. This has been settled. And so I left. That was in L.A. I was L.A. fucking county courthouse. So
what's up, Sean?
It was an interesting environment, but I will say this, that I don't know what happened to George. I quite literally within just a few weeks after that, I ended up joining the fire department. I started going to fire school up in Del Valle, California, and my world started changing. But I remember George, and I fondly remember this guy, and he literally, some of the craziest memories I have from my early 20s involve this guy. And it's just funny thinking about it now.
Sure.
But, yeah, he almost grabbed Tommy by the throat and just carried him out of the Whiskey. He didn't even know. He didn't care.
Yeah.
Didn't care.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I had to see a couple people were asking, any interaction with recently deceased, rest in peace, Dickie Betts?
Dickie Betts is my brother's favorite guitar player. Hands down. In fact, so no, I did not. He's not really my era. Mm-hmm. He would be my older brother's era, who's 13 years older than me. Would be Dickie Betts. That was his thing. Sure. Early Allman Brothers. That's really where we're talking. But it's funny. My older brother, I saw him a tech moron. This whole
Tom Raines
YouTube world and playing guitar and doing it on YouTube and all that is technologically, I don't get it. I have people who help me do it, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Mitch Heyman.
Well, thank you, Mitch Heyman. You got that right. That is an understatement. I love you, Mitch. And my brother was not a computer guy really at all. He wasn't aware that you could go on YouTube and watch old Dickie Betts. You can watch Dickie Betts play guitar. You can watch him give guitar lessons on YouTube. You can watch interviews. You can see more about Dickie Betts now than you could when Dickie Betts was Dickie Betts.
Yep.
That's the kind of world we live in now. I always laugh and say I was a huge
Hey,
Richie
step that way.
Blackmore fan. I worshiped that guy like he was a guitar god, and he was. I'm not taking away from him, but I didn't know the true stories of his personality and the way he treated his fans that are widely not only is it documented, you can see him doing it in real time. It was not available at the time, and I'll say this: having seen what I see now and know now. I loved Rainbow. I loved Ronnie Dio. He was a genuine gentleman. He was the opposite of Richie, polar opposite of Richie Blackmore. A massive respect for him. I wouldn't have held him in such a high esteem, I don't think, had I actually known who he was. That's interesting because a lot of artists that we held in high esteem back in those days were not who we thought they were.
Right.
It's who their publicists made them to be. And because of the way the world was and technology, we didn't know. If we didn't read it in a magazine or happen to actually see it on the news, didn't know.
Oh, and just so you know, folks, I keep forgetting to mention it. I've had some internet issues over the last few weeks. I locked up once during a story. We're okay. We got away with it. But if I do continue to have problems, I've got another co-host sitting in the green room to jump in to take over if I have to reboot things. So just so you know, folks, be aware.
Very cool.
Yeah, Dickie Betts always respected his playing. The closest I got to interview Andy Allendorf, who did all the tab work.
Wow.
And he played in the Dickie Betts band for a number of years.
Very cool.
And he had some stories. All
right, man. Dickie did it all, dude. He did it all. It's amazing how you can look at a guitar player like Dickie Betts, and you can do it real easy now with YouTube. Skip 5 years ahead and come to another artist who's prevalent at that time. Then skip 5 more years ahead, and you can watch the progression of a rock guitar player or how rock guitar has progressed. Folk rock guitar. Dickie Betts crossed a couple of genres in his guitar playing, as well, because there were different times. You got to remember, back in his day, they didn't call the music he was playing. It wasn't classified as this or that. It was new. Yeah,
they were just they were a jam band that happened to play loud. They weren't distorted, but they were just a loud, big band. You got 2 drummers. You got to turn up the amps. You got 2 flipping drummers.
That's right.
I remember it was funny. I remember watching like a live clip, a rig rundown, and instead of wedge monitors, they all like Fender Twins as their stage monitors.
Fender Twins are loud as hell.
Yeah, and that's what they're using. Like the drummers are using as the monitors. And I thought, Charles, great idea, because you got a volume control right there, so you don't have to get the attention of the monitor guy to say I need more.
It's like having a power monitor.
I was like, holy crap!
Yeah,
like the stage volume must be off the chart. But great. I hesitant to say they invented Southern rock, but they kind of did. But it was blues rock with a slightly different feel, because I had that jam band feel.
I'm a big fan of the Allman Brothers. I'm a big fan of the Hammond B3 organ and the way it came into music. And, John Lord, Deep Purple, they took it to the next level. Then you got your Rainbow. Keyboardists like Don Airey and Tony Carey took it to another level. Yet it's interesting. Those 2 guys I just said who were after John Lord never outdid John Lord.
No.
They were always in his shadow, which I find just awesome, Yeah. But there's something really nice, and that's why I like the Black Crowes so much. That's the reason I love the Black Crowes so much, is because they incorporate the Hammond B3 with the Les Paul through a half stack.
I can't remember his name, but the keyboard player in the original Black Crowes band, he was a Canadian guy, actually.
You're right.
Because he wasn't part of the original band for the first album. I think he joined for the second album tour, maybe post-recording the second album. He did end up becoming a full member.
Yeah. I was going to say there were 2 members, I think, we did the Crowes on Tony's channel.
Yeah, because they started as a 5-piece, became a 6-piece, and then like I can't remember if like similar to Skinner, I know they added singers, but I don't know if they were official members or not, type thing.
I don't think so. I don't think they were.
And then, I'll say it now. What passes off as the Black Crowes today is not the Black Crowes. That's the Robinson Brothers and a bunch of guys named who.
We used to have a
Black Crowes.
We used to have a guy who I absolutely love. His name was CK. He was a regular on our channel, Chris, and he went by the Analog Kid was what he went by. And he was one of those guys who had seen the Crowes like 200 times, traveled with them hippie style across the country.
Sure.
And he told me something about the Crowes that I wasn't aware of. And I heard it, and I haven't gotten over it to this day. I swear, if I ever see Chris Robinson, I'm going to ask him why. They don't ever repeat a set list. Ever.
Right.
And songs like Remedy or Hard to Handle, you may not hear those songs. There's a propensity that you will not hear any song that you consider to be their great songs. Top 3 or 4, you may not even see them. They might not play it for a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
That really
has anyone seen Rich Robinson's rig for the last tour? He has like a dozen. Yeah, it looks like Tom Petty's yard sale. That's what it looks like.
And if I went to see the Black Crowes and I didn't hear them play their hits, I'd be pissed.
Yeah.
And it's not that their music isn't great. It's not that, but that's not how it works. And so the thing about them is that's a unique thing about the Crowes. I don't know if they still do it to this day, but I think they do.
I guarantee you they're playing nothing but the hits these days.
Okay, that makes sense.
They're a legacy act. They're not bringing out anything new. Unless they bring out new content, which they may, to tour on the new album, but they're playing because they're basically doing flying gigs on weekends and or what have you / casino tours. And
I would go see him in half a minute still.
See, I'd like to, but I really don't like how they're like, "Hey, we're back." I'm like, "No, you're not. You're just you and your brother. You're not the band." And the band was really pissed about it because the way a lot of the band found out that the band was back together is seeing the Robinson Brothers doing press as the Black Crowes. They're like, "Yeah, we're going out on tour," and they're like, "Really? Because you haven't called me." There's a lot of bitter interviews, but
actually, I'm remembering this now. This is very recent. The Robinson Brothers. I was shocked when I heard that because now I remember what you were just talking about. I was sort of surprised that they were back together themselves.
Same here, considering Rich like it.
But I'm guessing maybe that's more necessity because they have an incredible catalog.
They do. And as much as I love Chris, his voice, but he treated his brother like a dick for years.
He blew through all that money. His brother was very vocal. If you guys are in the Black Crowes, it's a great story. Chris wrote a book, and I believe his brother also did an interview, one of the two. No, I think that was
a great band.
He blew through $250,000 in studio time in a very short period of time, just living in a studio, not producing shit.
Making an album that never saw the light of day.
Yes. While his brother was just every day like, please, please, please stop this insanity. Yeah. And that was the root cause of their initial breakup back in the day.
Holy crap, Billy. He saw the Crowes with Oasis. He goes, there's some brotherly love. Yeah, no shit. Holy, was there a family therapist on call Backstage?
Oh, Billy. Ooh. That's hilarious.
Right? Wow.
Yes, Jeff.
I really did like that when the Black Crowes backed up, or was it the Black Crowes doing Zeppelin with Jimmy Page, doing the Zeppelin set? Yeah. That was awesome.
Yeah, it is still really nice. It's interesting. Last 10 years, Jimmy Page. He looked up
the set list from the Crow show last night. It was all hits. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Jimmy's sort of, in the last 10 years, he's just stepped back into the shadows and just been cruising. Haven't really heard too much other than, what Ben was just talking about. I kind of wish I'd heard some more out of Jimmy. Kind of after In Through the Outdoor. Their steam was just, they went from being the biggest locomotive on the planet to not being in a very short period of time.
Randy Price made it.
I'm not taking away from their catalog and their beautiful songs and all that awesome music. Just in general as a band, you know.
And yes, Michael Gross. They got nothing on the Kinks. Actually, one of the two Davies brothers lives, I think he's still alive, lives locally here and was a teacher at the local college for decades. And I don't think it had anything to do with music. Like, he just totally walked away from music, and he was teaching at literally a small town community college in Canada.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I remember the Kinks first time I saw them. Forum in Los Angeles. I was young. I was a kid. It's one of the first shows my brother ever turned me on to with my brother. It was so cool, man. It was so cool. And to this day, my favorite song is Father Christmas by the Kinks. I don't know why.
That's a great song.
Why. But I would call the radio station, both radio stations, KLOS and KMET, every single year for at least the better part of a decade to request that song at Christmas multiple times.
It's quite a funny song.
I love the Kinks, man. They were so good.
Nice. We're going to go about another half hour here, folks. Got some great content so far here. Emmett was teaching there at probably at Sheridan College, which has a lot of arts program. I didn't know Sheridan College, who recently passed away, comedian Joe Flaherty, he taught a comedy course for, I think, a couple decades at Sheridan College in Toronto.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like,
Joe Flaherty was interesting back in the day when he first came on the scene.
Yep.
His brand of comedy was, there was nobody like him. There was nobody like Joe. And he came off, and I can remember sitting with my buddy Ralph. We'd watch him, and we'd just die laughing because he was so... Just the way
Why are you texting me during the show, Doug? Jesus. You know you're in the chat.
Hey, I do that too, bro. I do that to you once in a while, too.
Now, I'm just going to tell him. Like I said, okay, Doug's in Waterloo, outside Toronto. We'll say. Billy's in Cleveland. You weren't at the same show. You saw the same show on back-to-back nights. Because generally you played Cleveland to Toronto. Maybe a Buffalo in between. Maybe. Yeah, same tour. Exactly. I do read your damn comments. See, I'm reading them right now. Look at this. I'll even highlight it. There he is, down there, Cornell Podcast. Interrupting the show. Look at that. Yeah. Oh, and I'm going to say it now for the clarity for those that are watching. When I saw the rest in peace Joe Flaherty, they're like great characters like Count Floyd and Floyd Robertson from the news. I'm like, that was the same fucking character. That was the whole point. It was a small budget station, and the news anchor also hosted the monster movie night. That was the whole point. That's why he's always like, they go back and he's just standing there smoking a cigarette, not caring. Because he was, I know exactly, Don. Have a word with your co-host. He wants to do a NASCAR show this week, too. We'll just see. Guy Caballero was classic. And he was the dad on Freaks and Geeks.
He was the dad on Freaks and Geeks, that's right.
Yep. And I loved him in Happy Gilmore, roasting Adam Sandler.
Mr. BHB, you be well, Bruce. Love you, brother. You be well, man.
Hey, Bruce, grab some sleep. He always has an early day. He's up like for the sun or something. I don't know. He tells me these times of days. I don't believe him. I know there's PM versions, but AM, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be with family like this. No, you don't. No, you don't.
Yeah,
jackass. Exactly, Billy. Jackass. Like that. Well, that was the best thing. The Monster Chiller Horror Theater. Like he's like the mutterings under his breath, which probably wasn't even scripted. He's like, I don't even know why I'm doing this. Like, Monday morning, he's just ranting under his breath.
Hey, Blue Mox, right on, brother.
That's right. He didn't need the wheelchair. He just used it to get respect. So, no, the closest Red Lobster is in Kingston. Dug to rails, but it's a beautiful compliment. You do love a train wreck, Chris. We know you do love a train wreck.
Shooter, I thought we were friends. That's got to be one of his best roles, man.
Yep. Classic. Yeah. Chicago guy, originally. Second City, and then came to Toronto and did the SCTV thing, which was great.
Yeah, my goodness. Hey, does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask me about anything, period, within reason? And
keep it clean, folks.
So one time, okay, so I'm in this women's clothing store with Tommy Lee.
Okay.
You see the way I started that one off?
Yep.
All right. So
I'm like, so you're looking for stage wear.
Well, it's called Secondhand Rose. Santa Monica Boulevard, I believe it was. Let me think about that. I think
for part of the run, yes, Patrick Traits. SCTV started in Toronto, went to Edmonton, ended up back in Toronto.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's all Canadian.
Next time, Trev. We discussed that. You missed that part.
And place called Secondhand Rose. It's where all of the even rock stars would send their people there to look and see to get cool stuff.
Right.
But the crew they ended up having to Tommy needed a pair of size 13, well size 12 women's pumps, essentially, is what he was trying to find. But he didn't want them to look girly, but he wanted leather. He was looking for something that he could use. They were looking for stage clothes, okay?
Yeah.
And so we come in, we look down. I remember this one time we were there on the floor, and he picked up the pair of 5-inch heels, the boots that he rocked for over a year in 1981. All of 1981. This is where he got them. These are the shoes he wore. These are the shoes that he's wearing on Too Fast for Love. That's the shoes he's wearing.
Right.
And with the spike heel. And
easy to drum in.
He didn't drum in those. He was barefoot. He wore nothing but a leather loincloth. And I wouldn't even call it that. It was the shape of a damn hourglass, quite literally like an hourglass with a couple of holes here and there. And he had these shoelaces from a pair of fucking Converse high tops that he used to cinch it up on him. And his dick would hang out from time to time because it had nowhere to go. Yeah. And that's what he wore.
And the boy's girthy. I'm not going to lie, Jesus.
I hate to say it, but I have seen his junk on more than one occasion, and it was, I don't know what to say. It's not like
all I can tell you, people, is if you're on the socials and you see Tommy Lee is trending, hashtag, don't click the hashtag. I did that last year. For some reason, Tommy decided to throw his junk all over the internet last year. Congratulations, sir, but I don't need to be seeing that with my morning tea.
They got a bad rap. I believe it was an ex-employee that stole the tape, the initial tape, and that's not cool.
No, apparently Tommy discovered bathroom selfies last year. It was like, 20 years late to the party, Tommy. But,
well, so anyway, he's trying on women's shoes, and I can't remember the thoughts going through my mind of if my father and mother knew what I was doing right now, they would literally disown me. It was just, you don't do that. It was shocking. I walked down Sunset Boulevard with Tommy before, and people had driven by and called him you effing woman, just like that. And he's like, come here, bring it. He was just scrappy. I don't know what to tell you. But he found those boots. I found it just utterly cool as shit. He also got a. It looks kind of like a wife beater, but it was I don't know what you call that on the women's version of that. I don't know. There's a name for it, but he got one of those as well. It was just all white, and I remember asking him, I said, "What are you going to do with that?" And he goes, "Man, I'm going to take a razor blade and I'm going to cut some slits in it like that, and we may even put some blood drops on it." And I was like, "Wow, dude, I'd never heard any shit like that before, ever."
Right.
That was like some punk shit. Rock bands didn't do that. Rock bands, other than Wasp,
Yeah.
who embraced the blood. I remember Troubadour, 1983.
I blame the Road Warrior movie for all this
Come
post-apocalyptic.
right in front of the fucking Troubadour, and there's this 20-foot sign about 2 foot deep that says, "We all need blood, and so does Wasp. Support your local Red Cross." And they did a Red Cross night blood drive at the Troubadour. Wasp and Stormer.
Okay.
Wasp and Stormer. And it was one of the last few shows, I believe, that Stormer ended up doing at that time, that morph of Stormer. I think there was a period that and then they came back, and I don't know. But Stormer was a big band, you guys. Stormer was huge. They were pretty much on the same level as Snow.
Right.
Snow got to open for Van Halen in 78 at the Whiskey. It was a big deal. It was a big deal. But Stormer had bigger accolades, I believe, as a Hollywood band, as a rock band in L.A. And I gotta say it, I think they had better songs, a little bit more rockin' tunes. Carlos Cavazo was an incredible guitar player, and he had some great riffs in Snow.
Hey, Mark Taft.
But Mark, it's good seeing you, brother. But they weren't utilizing him to the best of his ability. Everyone knew he was a fantastic guitar player, but in Snow he didn't shine because the band was still in its morph stages of trying to make it as a band. Yeah.
So, do you have a story about the first time you met Cher?
All I did was see Cher.
Okay.
I just saw her, and Sonny wasn't there. I've told that story on your show kind of recently, actually, maybe within the last 6 months, I think. Beautiful girl, incredibly gorgeous, tall, thin, a little too thin.
What's up, Frank?
She embodied the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
She just, at that time, she looked, I was going to make a comparison between her and another actress. But she just embodied. When I think of Sonny and Cher, I go right back to my childhood of being about 8, 9 years old, 10 years old, and they were a bona fide thing on AM radio. And they had one or two hits. What was that one? I Got You, Babe was a thing. It was such a big song. It was such a big fucking song. And I remember thinking to myself as a kid, now I'm young, and they'd come on TV, and she always wore something that exposed her midriff.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah. Which is a big deal at that time.
It was a big deal in the late 60s, early 70s. The censoring of television was a real thing, and it was done quite liberally. But she got away with murder many times. I can remember my mom and dad sitting on the couch watching Sonny and Cher performing, and my dad having to kind of like make a obvious effort to not be staring at Cher to my mom. I remember it as a kid, because my parents were very straight-laced.
Yeah.
That's why we're so fucked up. It's very straight laced, right? And but yeah, she was very beautiful. I got to see her one time. I remember coming. She was in the club doing stuff, hanging out with her friends.
Sure.
Yeah.
That would have been like post married to Greg Allman.
Bardot, yeah, it's just very similar, Jimmy Ray. Very, very similar. It's weird the way that the Hollywood icons, and like I went back to something I said earlier. Nowadays, we're getting information that's put out by the family, not necessarily they may have passed away now, but lots of stories about people that we knew back in the day and we idolized. And sometimes you hear the stories about them, and it does. I guess the point of what I'm trying to say is I kind of try to keep the memories I have instead of hearing the new version of how someone on YouTube is portraying someone that I hold dear from my past.
For sure. I get it.
Yeah,
good luck with that. Good luck, Charles. That's all I'm saying on that. Good luck, Charles. He's trying to guess in the chat. Yep, good luck. Any who's and housens.
Hey, Jimmy Biter. It's good to see you, Jimmy.
I think I saw another question there. Scott Brockway was asking if you ever had any interaction with the band Angel.
Not really. Not really. I remember them. There were a lot of bands, man. Lots and lots and lots of bands.
Sure.
Every once in a while, I will think about Angel. No Angel stories. I don't have any stories about them.
Easy there, Steve Reeser.
She's the one who got away with it, though.
Oh, she
got away with it. No,
I remember like, what the fuck? The first time I heard that song.
It was so unique and new. It took people a while to learn to hate it.
Oh, no, it was instant for me.
Was it really? Really?
Oh, it was instantaneous. I was like, what the? I was like, oh, wow. Because prior to that, I had heard it, because it had been in use before, but no one had cranked it all the way up. The auto-tune wasn't so for that to become an effect per se. And I'd heard it before. And the first time I heard that song, I went, wow, she can't sing anymore. She's lost her voice. Because they've had to filter it now. I'm like, oh, okay. I completely dismissed the rest of the artists going forward.
Wow.
Well, you've lost it. Like, you can't hold a note.
I thought when I first heard that, I didn't know what auto-tune was when I first heard it.
Dave.
I
had already heard it in some country stuff prior. That's why I first heard it. And
so as a regular Joe Blow ears listening to her sing that song, I thought that she was actually doing something unique and hitting an off note first that was being corrected. And so that's intentionally hitting an off note, because if you hear it, it goes from a what's the word I'm trying to use?
Yeah, like a semitone off.
Note. I mean, she hits that note not wrong. She wants that note, and then it corrects her to where it corrects it to. So it was unique at the time, and when I first heard it, it took me a while to hate it, and then when I actually realized what it was, but it was so new. I always thought I gave her kudos for it because it was so new. I thought it was just another tool for her repertoire to,
Billy, I'm going to say this. Going forward, go see your favorite bands at smaller venues. The bigger shows now, I'm hearing literally 80% of live shows now have recorded tracks of some kind.
Yeah.
80%. Yeah. I was like, holy crap. But, if you go, this, if you go to a small club, Charles, it's a band with a crowd of 200 people, there's no backing tracks.
No, you'll hear it if there is.
You hear it, yeah, exactly. It's so obvious. You go to a bigger venue, you can hide it with the reverbs and the delays of the cavernous of the venue in many ways. But
Motley Crue did a really good job at Well, you can argue if it was a good job or not, but their original sound was quite thin. Every time, on Too Fast for Love, every guitar solo is double tracked in stereo to fatten it up.
Otherwise, it's just Mickey and drums behind
But
it.
I remember I was fortunate enough to see Wasp here last year.
Right.
4 shows after the last time I saw Blackie, he was in a chair finishing that tour.
Yeah.
He would stand up. So I consider that really fortunate because he was not only up, he was riding, he was on the Deathmobile, he was riding it, and it was really a great show. But there was definitely backing it. And there were, 500 people in the club, about 500 people.
Speaking of the world's shortest retirement ever, Charles, I'm going to spring this on you. Mm-hmm. We hadn't discussed this beforehand. You may know a certain band, Kiss, retired recently, sold their catalog and everything to the Swedish company, blah, blah, blah. Guess what I saw today? 2024, Charles, the Gene Simmons Band is coming out and touring. You want to bet they're going to play some Kiss songs during?
When he was giving that farewell speech and his eyes were tearing up and he was literally just crying about, it was over and he was going to miss everybody. What he was really crying about was how much money he was going to make on the next morph of Kiss in his life.
Yeah.
He is a marketing and merchandising genius, and it is in his DNA. I guarantee it. Kiss ain't going away. They're just going to...
Yeah, so now it's going to be, Gene's got a solo band.
He's going to do well, too.
So I saw a thing about that.
Well, I hope he's going to slow down. He has to. His age is obviously catching up with him. But this is going to keep him in the limelight, keep him out there. And I kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
Thank you very much.
I don't want rockers. Thank you, Taylor. You rock. I don't want rockers to fade away if they can still perform. I hate that when that happens. I like to see like Jimmy Page. I wish Jimmy had done some other stuff in the last decade and a half.
Unfortunately, with the death of television, we've lost all these birthday events, anniversary shows, where it ends up where it's like 12 different artists over the course of an hour and a half long show. And at the end, they're all out there on stage, jamming on Mystery Train. Jimmy Vaughn is always fucking there. Always there.
Yes, he is.
It's like Jimmy Vaughn, Ronnie Wood, Joe Walsh. It's like they're all there on stage doing their thing. And that's how you can do the semi-retirement thing. Kind of you show up for various events, but like I get it. Like certain guys are like, I'm selling off the guitar collection. I've sold off my catalog. Mm-hmm. And I'll just play here and there wherever I need. And like I say, these guitars, these are tools.
That's right.
You can keep refretting a guitar and this and that, but eventually, how about, Charles, do the smart thing, sell that iconic guitar of yours for millions of dollars to one of your fans, have a custom shop version of it made for next to nothing, because Bender or whoever will be glad to give you a custom shop version that you can play on stage.
That's right.
And you play one of those, and you do your select events here and there, whatever it is. Or maybe you do a residency. I like that idea. A nice Vegas hotel. You give me a suite. When it's time to do the show, I take the elevator, I go down, I do my 90-minute show, boop, and then I'm back up in the suite.
Yeah, that's it. What you just described is the way I look at the residency thing now with bands.
I'm down for that. Or, you do the cruise thing. Trev and I were talking about that the other night. That's kind of fun. Good weather, you play a few shows, and if you want to go out and get some song, oh, look at this, you got a bunch of your fans adoring all over you. Oh, geez. It's like the 80s all over.
I've always wanted to do a rock and roll cruise. I have never done that. That's something I would like to do. But if I did it, I'd want to see a band like from my past, like Kicks.
I know several people that have done it, but they've all been performers. Like, I don't know somebody that's just done it as a fan, ironically enough. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of friends of mine that are in like Canadian rock bands because they, it's not all American though. Like my buddies in Killer Dwarves, they do the Monsters Rock cruise pretty much every year. I think April Wine did it one year. Yeah.
That is awesome. That is just awesome, you guys.
We got a few more minutes, folks. We could probably do one more quick question. How about that, folks? Remind folks, tomorrow night, I'll be doing Canucks with Guitars. I'll be playing some songs. We'll do bad album covers, of course. Live Q&A.
I love that segment. I love it, Ben.
How
that album segment is absolutely priceless.
Right?
Priceless.
And now we have Charles 75N coming on as well till we get the reaction from him because he's such a nice guy. So we get the face palms. Doug's going to do a cornhole cruise. All right. Well, just make sure you don't set up the boards too close to the edge with a cross breeze. Oh, she gone. I need a new bag. That one's off in the ocean and the dolphin's playing with it. Perfect. So, yeah, and 1 week from tonight, we have Albus Band returning, and where we'll be premiering their latest single and music video, the second single off the album, as well as they're releasing the EP literally while we're hanging out here. Somehow, same time. I don't know. But we'll also be showing off their music video, which reminds me, I have to reach out to Aaron to get a copy of the music video. So, whoops, forgot about that. Yeah, so we'll be doing that. The week after that, not sure. It might be a group hang, or I may have a guest. I haven't decided yet. Week after that, I believe, is Mother's Day, so my lovely sister will be popping by for a visit, which is always fun.
Oh, man, it's awesome.
Always. Yep.
Your sister's absolutely awesome. She's cool as shit.
Tony, you're about 5 minutes away from the show being over.
Tony, love you, brother. Right on, man. Right on, bro. So, Guitar Man, he asked the question, how many licks to the center of a Tootsie Pop is what I believe you're talking about. And the answer is 3. And how do I know that? Because the owl told me so.
Right. And owls don't lie.
The wise owl, man. That's from a commercial.
Yep.
From our childhood, brother. I'm remembering it, and you are awesome.
That commercial was on for a long time because that was in my childhood as well. So that shows, and we're 13 years apart. So I'm just saying, folks. Stephen Douglas, making it for the end as well. Dastardly Dave says he did Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp. Now that I would be down for doing something like that. Would be fun because then you're literally jamming with some of your favorite musicians. Key to that, you know what the key to that is, Charles? You do some research on the band. Like, let's say you're going and it's Alice in Chains. All right. Well, what I'm going to do is then I'm going to look back and I'm going to watch a bunch of interviews with Jerry Cantrell and find out what his favorite song to play live is. And guess what song I'm going to request to do? I want to do his favorite.
There you go. He's the riff god.
He is. What's up, Rico B from Denver this evening? Alice in Chains and Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah, brother.
Is that the same? Were you at the same one Pete Cruccio was at? He was at that one as well out in L.A. I remember him talking about that.
What was that again, Ben?
That's what he did. They were really happy because he chose album cuts. Because there was a few times like they were playing the same song for a few people, for instance.
Okay.
And so he chose some like deep cuts off the album. They're like, wow, we haven't played these in ages. It's not Betty Van Haskell.
I'd love to have heard that.
Okay, Dave knows Pete. There we go. How do you like that? There's your small
Dave,
world.
right on, brother.
Okay.
Eddie Van Haskell. It's good to see you, Eddie. Right on, man.
Saw Grunt Truck live, Scott Brockway. Saw them live.
Nice.
Jimmy Biters mentioned Skinner and Grunt Truck hard to BC Rit. Now I got to go back because why is BC Rit? Yes. All right. Yeah. There we go. Skinyard was an overlooked Seattle band. If you say so, BC. I don't know. Sure. There we go. All right. Josh has to leave. His final test drive of the Galaxy. Sweet. Get it ready for the car show coming up. Yeah, we should probably wrap things up here. We will definitely do it again. Obviously, we got a whole freaking playlist. And
Next
we'll work.
time I show up, Ben, we're going to do, I'll play guitar and we'll go that route and we'll make it happen.
And see, I like that. Dave says still friends with some of the stars and campers to this day from that. That's awesome.
Right on, brother. That's awesome.
Yeah. And you can check out Charles over on the Fruitcake Tony network on Tuesdays and Saturdays with Halenville Live. And show me your pick. I said pick. Always a fun time.
I love those boys, man. We have a lot of fun, you guys. Check us out, man.
See them popping up once in a while over on the OU812 network, just rocking out tunes and melting faces and wetting panties. Or both. I don't know.
I don't know about all that, but I have a lot of fun over there with those boys. They are rockers, and Ben shows up once in a while.
They are a wild and crazy bunch.
Absolutely, man. Hey, thank you for having me, Ben. I once again have enjoyed myself. You guys in the chat, I love you guys. I know most of you now. I know all of you. Don't be strangers. And I can't wait to see y'all again, man.
Also, hit that join button if you haven't already, because you never. This guy even pops in on the Water Buffalo meetings we do twice a month.
Absolutely, and I'm overdue to get in there.
Awesome. I would like to see that, Dave. You can send it to canuckswithguitars@gmail.com. Unless we're connected on social media. There's always that option as well.
Right on.
Yeah, hold the line, Charles, as we wrap things up. Thanks again, everybody that tuned in tonight. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you're new and you made it to this point, I hope I've earned your subscription. Hit that like. Share with your friends. Oh, we're friends on Facebook. Well, they're rare. What else? I think that's it. Yeah, I'll be back tomorrow night playing some tunes and bad albums and all that fun stuff. And yeah,
you guys.
the doors open. You know, I don't know. Let Patrick Trites in ahead of you in traffic. How about that? We'll do that. Happy tone
Oh,
chasing.
already just slid in, bro.
Nice. Peace, folks. Don't litter.
Love you guys.